Tonio, thank you for being here today. How are you feeling?
Thanks, first of all, for the invite, Daniel. Good. I always say that I'm good. I'm a very positive person, so I try to to spread this with others. So yeah,
And
today,
even in your work, I mean,
yes, yes,
you're
yes,
very much involved with people who have
yes,
a difficult social background as well,
yes, yes, yes,
and so this translates even to your full-time employment.
yes. I think it's a must in today's. Obviously, we just passed. We're still under, but 2 years of pandemic. And I think being positive today is I would not say it's a must because not everybody can be that positive, but I think it helps a lot,
hmm
especially when your work consists of supporting other people.
hmm I'm sure empathy plays a very important role within
Yes.
within your work.
Yes.
What does empathy mean to you?
Okay, I think it's a very good question, and if you have asked me this, I think 2 years ago, pre-pandemic, I would have answered differently. Uh, Obviously, now we all pass through this time, so it was everybody, young people, kids, parents, families, going up to CEOs, businessmen, leaders, employers, etc.
hmm
So I think the word empathy plays an important role in our daily life now. In my perspective, empathy means to listen to other people and understand, their current situation. I think that is one of the first of all, I think that's one of the skills that people say that I have to listen, and I think today time is important. Uh, However, I think we are living in the world where listening plays an important role in every aspect, being meeting two friends at the place of work, when you're delegating work, when you're supporting an NGO,
hmm
So for me, empathy is mainly giving the time for others and understand what they are trying to tell you. Because we live in a very fast-moving
That's true.
world,
hmm
and I think time is becoming, first of all, is becoming costly and
hmm
expensive. Um, However, I think we have changed this to being empathy with each other. So for me, is
hmm
mainly listening.
Listening and understanding.
Yes, and understanding.
Recently, I had this is a very similar conversation with a friend of mine, and he mentioned that he heard a quote when it comes to the meaning of empathy, and he said something like this. He told me that empathy is when you put yourself in that person's shoes, but you have to know your shoes better
Yes,
than most.
yes, yes, yes,
And it's interesting the way that you mentioned listening and understanding. However, we can't forget the person who
yes,
is
yes,
empathizing.
yes, yes, yes.
And I'm sure that this also plays a very important role. You mentioned that um, in today's world, we have to listen more, time is valuable. However, we also need to take care of ourselves.
True, true, true. Yes, I think it is important because obviously listening skills can come by time. For example, I think I discovered that maybe I have a forte for being a good listener
hmm
way back when I started my youth work course. I think we had one credit and then another credit about listening skills, and then I realized that I am a good listener, and people always tell me this. However, by time you realize that sometimes it can get a little bit of I don't like to call it a problem, but a situation also. Because by sitting down, giving time to somebody and listen, obviously you're taking a lot on yourself, in your mind, you know. So I think there are times where one needs to filter also, you know, what you listen. No, obviously not in a conversation, when you are with another person, but also around us, especially like today in social media. You know, we listen a lot of things. You know, advertising. You know, these social media posts, etc. But I think for us, I think you need to filter. You know, and you need to decide what to listen or not, because it can get a little bit overwhelming as well.
And sometimes being a professional in the field, you
Yes,
also
yes.
tend to be the go-to person
Yes.
for people to speak to.
Yes, yes.
So by people knowing that you work in a certain area, in the social area,
yes.
most people tend to rely on you for listening to them as well.
Yes, because I think people see in you i- that you are a person that you're going to give them time, and that you know that you're not going to be judgmental. You know, that you listen, you pause, you think. You know, and then continue. Unfortunately, today we're being caught with this. You know, listen equals money.
Mhm.
You know, which I do. I do. You know, accept that the fact that you know there are professionals that that needs to be to do this. However, sometimes we are forgetting that not everybody in today's even financial situation can afford to go to some professionals for them to just listen and maybe you know getting advice. Obviously, some professionals they are there to lead into a specific situation, which you know I support them a lot. But obviously, what I'm saying is even between two friends, you know, even in our families, you know. So I think just to give time to others, to your kids, you know, an employer to an employee, you know, a friend to a friend. I think this helps because even if you listen just for 10 minutes, that person would say, okay, somebody heard me, you know. So that can help. But yet again, sometimes we're caught in this fast moving where it's just you hear,
Yeah.
but you don't, you don't absorb the words, you know,
You hear and not listen.
and not listen.
Yep.
That's it. That's I think one thing.
Earlier you mentioned the importance of listening, and by being a little bit philosophical here, I think that in order for us to grow personally and to develop as a human being, we need to hear others, but we need to hear our own voice as well.
Yes.
Our own voice when voicing things out. So if I'm listening to you and I'm trying to support you, it's also a reflexive exercise on our end. So when we interact with one another, we sort of change the repertoire, the vocabulary, the words that we use to communicate in accordance to the other person.
Definitely.
So that they are more receptive, so that
Yes.
our message comes across.
Yes.
And personally, the way I improved my communication ability is to try to adjust the way I speak to the individual that I have in front of me. If I can share a personal experience on this matter, when I was younger and I tried to explain this, obviously I couldn't explain it very clearly. But I remember one of my friends at the time couldn't understand this concept that you change the way you behave and the way you speak according to the individual.
Yes.
And this friend of mine called me as not being authentic
Yes.
at the time.
Yes.
And I disagreed because I am authentic, but I can adjust to the situation.
Yes.
Years later, because I think 5 years later, he mentioned this to me and he told me, now I understand what you've meant.
Yes.
By the time I was able to explain it better, because obviously
Yes.
I grow older and hopefully wiser as well, and even through my academic experience as well.
Yes.
And I think that's personal reflexivity, and the more you communicate with people, the more empathic you become,
Yes.
and the more capable you become at filtering what you said, what remains with you and what doesn't remain with you.
Yes. I think you mentioned something within your personal the academic part. I can say myself, I'm 51 now, but I started to work at a very young age. So I went into employment at the age of 17, I remember. However, I never took academia as part of my growth, so it was at that time, work. And suddenly when I started to work with or to meet my work with people, for example, the program that I started to run at Jobsulas, it was for young people with intellectual disabilities. So there was also another challenge with that, because obviously we know that intellectual disability is one of the most challenging impairments that we have. And that we need to support. Obviously, that time I started also to meet a lot of employers, because my role was to place these persons and give them the opportunity to go into employment. However, that created also some questions within my growth, and that's when I started to look at academia. So it was a late vocation for me to go to a university. So I started at the age of 42. I went back. I started my youth work course. However, it was after 2 years, I got a diploma in youth studies, and then I went direct for a master's degree.
Okay.
However, during this academic journey, I was hearing the answers of a lot of questions I had in the past.
Okay.
So academia as a self-growth give you this opportunity, because you're starting to read, you start to research, you start to reasoning, you start to write, So I would say yes, it was part of my personal late vocation growth. Obviously today, hopefully I'm doing a research. So as a social researcher, I think academia have grown up with me now. But it's something that I really stress even when I'm meeting and I'm speaking to young people. It is a mix. You should look at also. There are other ways today, vocational route, so academic route. So there is a lot of opportunities, even for you to grow. You don't have to go to university, but if your employer is giving you the chance or the opportunity for you to do a short course, go for it. It will put a growth in your progression. However, obviously, all this comes with a consequences, because you have to juggle between work, study, family, friends, So obviously, this comes with you have to take decisions also. But for me, seeing the end results, that you have people looking at you in maybe a different way, of the go-to person to listen. When I've just ended up with a conversation with somebody, I would say I gave that person time. I gave him time, because God knows whoever have listened to him. Because I think he was waiting for this time. It could be a stop. just a simple conversation. It could be then a follow-up, even, so, but just giving that short of that time, even short, even 5 minutes, even 10 minutes, you're giving the opportunity to this person,
Mhm.
so this is part of the
Yeah.
empathic growth,
Mhm. Tony, you have quite an extensive amount of experience when it comes to leadership across multiple levels, being it youth, being it management, being it at work, being it voluntary. Um, in your experience, how does leadership and empathy balance out? And how does one juggle
Mhm.
both domains?
Um, Once again, I'm going back to pre-COVID and today. I think simple things. Pre-COVID, I have met employers, for example, and when I, for example, when I used to visit employers to place these young people with disability,
Mhm.
um, I would say most of them they weren't empathic, because it wasn't yet something that have they experienced.
Okay.
I would say now that, for example, in when it comes to mental health, so I think I have found this from the difference from pre-COVID to post-COVID. You had top management who maybe they couldn't be empathic to their employees when it comes to a mental health. So you have an employee with a mental health problems,
Mhm.
and they would say, "Oh, he has problems at home. He has social problems. Why he's bringing them at the place of work? This cannot be done, etc." However, COVID have put everyone from all types of
Mhm.
grades, being top management, being middle management, etc. So I think now we have, thank God, we have CEOs, we have top management who are really more empathic with their employees when it comes to a situation about mental health, for example.
Mhm.
You have a problem at home because they have experienced
Yeah.
this during COVID. So
Mhm.
once you experience this, you are now more empathic, so you will be more supportive to your
Yeah.
subordinates because you have experienced their life in their shoes,
Mhm.
so I think I think if COVID was a very bad
Yeah.
experience,
Mhm. Mhm.
I think this has put a lot of people to be more empathic.
I think it gave
Yeah.
a new perspective.
Yes, yes. My only concern is, and this, obviously, we are now moving away from the pandemic.
Yeah.
It's not over yet. Um, I hope we don't lose this.
What we've learned. Yeah.
Yes, what we've experienced,
Mhm.
and not go back to the same routine. And especially because we have now the financial situation.
Yeah.
So I think people, top management, middle management, employees themselves, they need still, they still need to keep in their mind their experience of the pandemic,
Mhm.
and how this have changed, and not put us back in pre-COVID times. And that's where I think we need to keep on, even me, myself, or my colleagues there, youth workers, social workers, etc., that we passed from hard
Hard
times.
times. Yes. That's true.
We had people dying. We had people, with health issues.
Mhm.
So the pandemic came unexpectedly. What can happen next year? Nobody knows.
Mhm.
So we can pass through this cycle again. So this is one of the messages I always try to put. Let's not forget.
Mhm. Mhm.
Because it can be in our lives once again. You know. So yes, I think empathy now it's in more with us.
Mhm.
People can understand each other a little bit more because they have passed from this experience.
Mhm. From my experience, when it comes to empathy and leadership, I think that even pre-pandemic and post-pandemic, there's a post-pandemic,
Yes.
I think the most difficult thing to do, because nowadays the word empathy is more out there. Okay, sometimes it's used as a buzzword,
Yes. Yes.
but it's out there. Okay,
Yes.
so at least there's awareness on that.
Yes. Yes.
I still believe that we need to learn how to juggle between empathy and leadership, because it takes skill, time, and effort to be sort of vulnerable in inverted commas as a leader
Yes.
with your reportees. So what I'm trying to say here is that you still need to create boundaries.
Yes. Yes.
Being empathic does not mean being open to anything, and without setting boundaries, or without communicating the consequences of a particular situation, or so I think hand in hand with empathy leadership, we need to become more aware of ourselves and how we do set those boundaries, which
Yes.
are very important, because we teach others how they treat
Yes.
us, and
Yes,
how
yes,
that's a basic principle of
I would say I think it has to be a twofold here. Even for example, when it comes to leadership, so you have the subordinates. I think it has to come both from the leader and the subordinates. Because sometimes we always point out our finger to the leadership. To the person leading
Yeah.
the group. That he needs to be more empathic. However, at this time, I think even in terms of, for example, employment, even the employees need to be empathic with their
Yes.
leader. Because obviously, currently we're facing this economic turbulence. So, yes, employers. They are passing from a challenging, and I can imagine after a pandemic now they found this.
another obstacle yet.
Yes, so there is production problems, costings, etc. So, but I think it's also the responsibility of the employee to be empathic with the employer at this time. Because it is a chain.
Yes.
One needs the other. Because obviously one needs to be paid. To support the family.
Yeah.
But we must realize now that when the employer was empathic with us during the pandemic, now we need to be also with him during these challenging
Yes.
financial times. So it is twofold. Yes, that we need to be. I think we have got closer to being even here locally. I think a population of being more empathic, and this can start also even in our education system at schools. In our extracurriculum activities in the NGOs, to be more, to instill this as a skill now that we need to be more empathic with each other, because now we have a story to say.
Yep.
Because of the pandemic, for example, because of these current situations. So I think as it is now a buzzword, like for example, way back we had diversity as a buzzword.
Yes.
Everybody using it. Maybe some people abusing it also. So I think we need to instill this empathic culture also within our young generation also. A lot of people during the pandemic had empathy to the health workers, for example.
Yes.
How much we saw people clapping, etc. Now, where is that? Is it still up? Is it still that they are facing challenges? They will continue facing challenges. It wasn't just an episode.
Mm-hmm.
So I think yes, I think we need to, have this more into ingrained into our daily lives to be empathic. Not everybody can understand this.
Mm-hmm.
There are people who they still they cannot understand how one can be empathic.
What would be the challenge in that regard?
I think it's more of I think in my opinion I think it's more of an education aspect.
Okay.
And that is why I always say, our education is the basis of everything. If we start in our generation, with also with this buzzword, empathy, when they grow up, but obviously then there are some cases where maybe the person himself is passing from a challenging time, and he cannot understand how he or she can be empathic. That's another option. That's why a person cannot be empathic. But I do believe that not everybody can be because it is in him.
I think it's a question of asking ourselves what can we do for the person in front of us.
Yes, and then there is us.
Yes.
And we come along.
Yeah. But so our roots is scouting, right?
Yes,
and,
yes, we go back in.
Yeah. and one of our youngest sections in Scout, the Cup section, we always teach the children do a good deed every day.
Yes.
And the fact that you try to think of a way that how you can support another person, I think that puts a different mindset. It puts the child at a different perspective. So it goes along with what you've mentioned. We have to start early and educating children to think of other people besides themselves.
Yes.
Obviously, we always need to take care of ourselves first, not in an egoistic point of view, but we need to be strong ourselves in order to support another person.
Yes, definitely. And I think maybe even when we're out there with our young children, I think empathy could be a very strong word for them.
Mm-hmm.
But if we instill in them the helping and supporting, to be there for one another, both in the formal and non-formal education system. So this can be across board, both at school, both at youth nurseries, both at scouts, both at all these religious movements that we have. So I think pushing this into our roots, we will eventually see the fruit of this. I think we passed from some time when obviously we had this welcoming other people from different cultures, for example. It was a challenge in our system. However, if I think you go at schools today, young kids, I think they understand each other, even coming from different backgrounds. I would say more easily than adults.
Yes.
Because it is part of their life now.
Even something a little bit simpler than that, the co-education.
Yes. Gender.
Mm-hmm.
So and hence here, going back, starting young, education. Education plays an important role in our society. In our communities. By starting at home. Home is already a community, but then obviously building this up, we will be seeing it in leadership.
Yep.
So that's when it comes to having empathic leaders. Because once we are pushing this when we are young, growing up with this mindset, we will see the difference. I think, for example, in terms of working with other people, I think we're seeing we've been experiencing the influx of people coming from diverse backgrounds.
Yep.
People coming from Nepal, India, people coming from Colombia, but because we need these people today to work with, because we need to accept that they are our co-workers. You find people that they really go well with these people coming from different cultures, because we really need it. So educating our young, and even welcoming at the place of work different kind of diverse people.
Yeah.
Because obviously, if they come from different cultures, they come with different backgrounds, and we need to have the empathy to welcome them in our island.
Yeah.
So some people would say they should adapt to us and not we to them, because they are coming here.
Yes, yes.
But we need to hear their stories too. We need them here, they need us, and I think this is one of I meet a lot of employers, for example. I meet a lot of leaders nowadays. I think this is one of the biggest challenge, to have such a diverse workforce that they need to work together as a team, but they are coming from different backgrounds.
Yep.
Yes, so let's educate our workforce as well. Not just the young, the current ones, because the educating the small ones will bear fruit in
The upcoming years.
In the coming years. But even today, employers, they should put and invest in educating in terms of I don't know, creating more diverse workshops between employers, and one can really be empathy, really can focus on this empathy side.
Yes.
Because you're dealing with a person from a different culture,
Yes.
But I think this is the role of the current leaders, the current managers, the current leadership, to provide the space for their employees to be more empathic with each other. I think we have a responsibility also as leaders, as to support this current trend.
Yep. We have to be inclusive in that
Yeah,
sense as well.
Obviously, yes, but this is something I always say. It's we always focus on being diverse, inclusive. But how about being inclusive? Being inclusion also in terms of what we preach now. We will do it. Because
Leading by example
Yes.
in that regard.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So yes, I think we need to be a little bit more of focusing on what we really need to do today, as in, because this is something that's happening fast in our island, for example. We always say, and I really don't support the phrase that many obviously say, the young are the leaders of tomorrow.
Okay.
And,
Yeah.
they are the leaders of today. If we're not going to hear them now, we will lose them, because we will get another cohort of young people. And we always say, so even when it comes to, are we listening, to what the young people are saying? They are the leaders of today, not of tomorrow. They would have grown up and they would start, facing a lot of more problems, etc. So by this, creating this empathic connotation in them, I think we will bear fruit now and also in the future.
I think the obstacle here, I agree on the fact that we have to listen. However, I usually see this divide between the youths and the adults.
Yeah.
In society, there is some sort of divide between these two
Yes. Yeah.
demographic groups. um, I think it stems from the fact that for the youths, the adult world is an alien world.
Yes.
But this also goes vice versa.
yes.
For the adults tend to forget
That
how
they were.
what it means to be youth.
Yes. Yeah.
And I'm very much involved as you are and with youths.
Mhm.
And for me, I don't feel this gap because I'm constantly in touch through education, through scouting with the youths. But when I speak on this topic with my friends who are not as involved as I am with youths, I can sense this sort of today's youth, they don't understand, and
Yeah.
so on and so forth. And I think that's the lack of touch with, or lack of communication with the youth that creates this sort of this divide. And here nowadays we're hearing the Gen Z, then the Gen
Yes.
Y, and
Yes.
how to manage
Yes.
youngsters at the place of work. And I think it stems from this.
Yes. Yes.
The adults are not understanding or trying to understand the world of the youngsters.
I think Daniel here is the thing is that for example once again diversity when it
Mhm.
comes to age, for example,
Yeah.
here
Yes.
we're seeing. I think we need to create more spaces where we have a mix of these people. Gen Z with, for example, millennials.
Mhm.
Because if we're not going to put these two generations closer to each other, they will never going to understand each other. So even when it's at the place of work, even when a board is created, for example, make sure that you have members from, Gen Z, millennials. Yes, why not from Gen Z? You cannot see them young. You need to have them on board because they are, they can tell you what's today,
Yes,
which
they have access to all information in
Yes.
the world. And
yes.
sometimes I think youths are viewed as inexperienced.
Yes.
It's true they lack experience, but they have the information.
It is like that, also, it goes back to the pandemic.
Yep.
For example, what will happen to the young generation that have experienced,
Mhm.
especially these 16, 18-year-olds, these 2 years in pandemic? I look back and say, how would I have reacted if I passed 2 years of sixth form closed in a room,
Mhm.
for example? I
Yep.
would have never understand, missing the, meeting with colleagues, mixing up, the social life.
Mhm.
But we have a generation of young people at the age of 12, at the age of 16 to 18,
Yes.
for example, that they were preparing to go for tertiary education in a room.
Yep.
What consequences are we going to? I think it could be positive consequences and negative.
Yes.
I heard a story of a young person that during the pandemic, because he was confined in this, he took the opportunity to learn another language.
Okay.
So that I see a positive side.
Yes. Yes.
But there are others who lost 2 years, and they had
Especially
plans.
when it comes to the social realm of
Yes,
things.
yes.
It's already a virtual world when it
World.
comes to
Uh,
social
meeting-
interactions.
Yes.
And I think that increased considerably during the pandemic.
Yes, but obviously we need to listen to these young people because they passed from 2 years where doing a meeting online is a norm now. You know, um, have we have we learned from this? I remember. I think it was February of 2020, just before the pandemic was about to start. I attended this Erasmus training on online youth work, which was, I think we were seeing it something up there.
Yeah, it was ahead of its time, though.
You know, and I came back from Vienna from these 4 days, just in time that at the airport they started to check the temperature. So COVID was literally
Just
at
starting,
the,
yeah.
yes, at the time. But I was just experiencing 4 days of listening to how we can give youth work services, digital youth work services online, which personally it was a little bit of a challenge for me. However, we know that the next month, following this, we had youth groups,
No choice.
yeah, trying to create online spacing for young people. So this was, it was something surreal that this would happen. But coming back, it was very clear. I was listening to the news, what was happening in Italy, for example, where the pandemic. But at the back of my mind, I was like going, oh, I think now we will be using those skills that I have been,
Yes.
and how much counseling sessions online have,
Yep.
so I would say now, after is this the new norm? Shall we adapt to it? Shall we have a combination of?
Yep. Yep.
Because obviously we know that to go for a meeting, especially with this traffic
Yes, you have to
situation,
commute and
you
whatnot.
have to commute. But is it a team meeting, Teams meeting, or any other platform meeting more convenient that
Yes.
you can stop for 5 minutes before,
Yep.
and then start the meeting and then just continue instead of but obviously we're missing the human. But it can be now a combination of, and we can sit with Generation Z and tell them, listen, this let's combine what and what we have experienced now, but we need them on board.
Yep.
We need them part of our decision making, because they survived.
I think it goes back to what you've said at the beginning of our conversation, that the pandemic put everyone at the same level. So
Yes.
it's sort of that our worlds combined, the youths and the adults, sort
Yes,
of. It's a
yes.
world combined, and so it gave us the opportunity to understand one another.
Yes.
But as you said, Tonio, we have to remember
Yes.
and we don't forget what we've learned during
Yes.
the pandemic. And you mentioned the use of Teams and virtual platforms.
Yes.
We now know that they are very effective in some areas and in certain situations, but an in-person meeting is more effective in certain areas. So we have to learn and adjust according to the situation. And for sure, we have to tap into the knowledge of the youths who are very much in touch with this
Yes,
kind of
yes,
reality, with
yes.
these kind of platforms.
Yes. Yes. I would say even they adapted to the situation. Suddenly virtual learning. Suddenly we're seeing universities offering these virtual courses
Yeah.
where before it's about. So I would really like to putting this also in this listening skills, even employers, even leadership, take time to listen to the young generation, because you can learn from them, and you can combine of what you have experienced and what they have experienced. It could be something that it could be different, and maybe more profitable in your company.
Mm-hmm.
You know, time virtual. You know, it's because we all know that in a company, time equals money.
Yes.
You know, so having not just meetings, but
Mm-hmm.
the way we adapt on working from home.
Yes.
You know, so yes, we really need to be empathic with each other because of our situation, but we really need to stop and listen, not only in terms of if we have social problems, you know,
Yes.
between each other, or maybe going over a coffee, but also in the industry,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So even when there are focus groups, you know, I encourage employers, you know, get in the young people, you know. Once again, they are not the leaders of tomorrow, they are today's leaders.
It's true.
You know, they have a baggage now. You know, how did they survive during the pandemic? You know, and how we can combine with our mature experience.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I am sure that together, both, you know, our workplaces, for example, will be more effective.
Mm-hmm.
You know, more profitable. You know, so yes, give them the space now.
Actually, I remembered something as you were speaking on this topic. Throughout the summer, the place where I work, I came up with the idea to establish a youth committee where these had a particular budget, and they had to organize 10 events for the employees, for some form of social gathering, some form
Yes.
of activity that brings people together at the place of work. And we had around 8 students, a very diverse group because some of them were interns from abroad.
Okay, all right.
And my premise for this was that youths have two things that adults might not have, which is a lot of time in their
Yes.
hands and a lot of energy.
Yes, yes.
And so how we can capitalize on that so
Yes.
that they both can learn, because they have the opportunity to learn teamwork skills, communication, leadership, budgeting and whatnot, but in a way that the company can benefit from as well,
Yes.
by organizing events, by including them, by combining the adults and the youths together.
And here, obviously, it's this is the way we need to go forward, even in our the role of the coach and mentor. You
Mhm.
know,
Yeah.
I think this plays an important role. You know, because I am sure that the young people that there was a mentor.
Mhm.
You know, maybe it was you, or with, you know,
In this case, it was me.
you. You know? So yes, you know, they should be given the space,
Mhm.
you know, the opportunity. They have the time, as you
Yes.
said, and I think they I think they have acquired skills to manage the time more than us.
Okay, what sense?
In terms of I think because they are quicker.
Mm-hmm.
You
Okay.
know, they are you know, they can I think they can adapt to a situation that for example you know, they can listen to an online lesson while, you know, going by bus back to home.
Okay, so they can sort of multitask
Yes,
in a way. Okay.
yes. I think they are a more multitasking generation.
Okay.
You know, because this situation have put them this challenge,
Mhm.
and I think most of them, they have gained this opportunity, which when then it goes to the place of work, this is a plus to an
Mhm.
employer.
For sure.
You know, being multitasking, being.
I think this is very underrated.
It is, and obviously then comes this part of this mentor. This the employers should see that even when there are young recruits, you know, there should be a person that they can go to. You know, the person that they should approach
Yes.
first.
Yes.
You know, because just placing them at the place of work and having them spread around, etc. I think this is the time when you need to welcome the young generation at the place of work, and they should have their I think their role model at the place of work also. It could be a person that maybe the top management identify as being, why do employees go always to that person to ask?
Yeah.
This happens even if you have an office,
Yeah.
you have two persons, there's an open door policy, but you're there and you're seeing employees always go to the same person.
Yes.
Even just because that person could be a person that listens.
Yes.
That that he could be more empathic. That during break he he gives time to others. It could be he's not an academic person to be like, for example, a youth worker or something.
But they're more approachable.
But they are more approachable, even by certain soft skills, maybe the appearance, the way how he greets, if he sees. So I am sure that in each and every company there is the go-to person, and that could be the person that links the young employees, being coming on board and introduce them to the maybe older generation at the place of work, But once again, voice these young people even at the place of work. Sometimes we do, yes, like you said, underestimate. They have ideas, they have fresh ideas. They can come up with 1,001 things that they can improve your business. On another side, obviously, because I'm always supporting persons with disability all at the place of work. Having an inclusive work of place with
At all levels.
Yes, with persons with disability. There is a huge market in that, even for employers. You're not just supporting the person, you're supporting the person, his or her family.
Yes.
So there's a market even to make an inclusive workplace by recruiting persons with disability. And here comes again the role of the job coach at the place of work. With supporting different young people or different people coming from challenging backgrounds. It could be people coming from maybe they were ex-substance abusers. They all have a package, but I am sure that they can all share their experience and collect their experience, and then you can take something out of that, even as an employer, because you can create a product for their needs, a service for their needs, where there's a missing gap, there's a missing
niche.
Yep. And you can tap that. So inclusive workplaces, being empathic, young people, coming in all this, and it all boils down for us to be more empathic.
Yeah. But Tonio, I think we've opened Pandora's box when it comes to inclusion and empathy, and our discussion. I was very pleased to experience that we've touched many demographic groups in our society, and I think we gave the listeners a very holistic view on empathy and how they can include and how can they be inclusive themselves as leaders and as employers as well.
Yeah.
Tonio, thank you for your time. I think this was a very interesting.
For the opportunity.
You're very welcome. This was a very interesting conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tonio.
Thanks to you and your listeners.